Bryce, do you like cars and or MMA or UFC? I love cars. I don't think you guys would be able to actually guess the car that I own though, because I don't like the type of car that you probably think I like. I have a niche car, like a niche car. I do not have a Chrysler Pacifica, bro. Oh my gosh. A VW bus? Dude, you guys you're terrible at this already. Wow. Can you explain the whole begottenness isn't a hypostatic property thing? Because it is a hypostatic property. That's ridiculous to say. That's why I posted it, McBaller. That's every father says that that's a hypostatic property. Like literally every single one of them. All right. Let's see what happens. Let me turn the music off for this.
What?
You said that I'm weird.
I said you guys were just watching my live on another live was weird.
I didn't. I was here in the chat.
I literally got a screenshot of it. I don't know. I don't know why we're lying, guys. I really don't know why we're lying. Like I have screenshots that people.
Damn, we caught him lying within the first 10 seconds of talking to him, bro.
I don't know why we're lying. This is literally them watching my live. Okay, guess we're just lying though. Weird.
No, it's not actually. I'm not lying at all. In fact, as soon as you were live and I knew about it, Speaking Muslim said, "Oh, why don't you go to Nick's live?" And I showed up.
And you guys just sat there watching it?
How am I?
Yo, you straight up just like, you weird for that, man. You weirdo. Why you just watching my live from your own live, man?
How am I sitting there watching it if I'm here?
Oh my gosh, I said you were. Because I have screenshots of it.
I literally just explained.
No, I don't own a Miata, bro.
Events. A screenshot means that it was there.
I don't drive a Tacoma either.
It was at least a minute.
Okay, so I'm here on your live. You said the Trinity is logical.
Yep.
Okay, so but by what relation do you count gods in the Trinity?
By what relation?
Oh my gosh, dude. Isn't he supposed to be like their goat or something? He still runs the argument from a counting perspective. I thought he was supposed to be like the goat of LPT. Asking how many gods you count and the way that you count gods is literally one of the most low-tier LPT understandings ever.
Do I count gods?
There's so many, but dude, transitivity is better than this, by the way. The transitivity LPT is way better than the counting method argument.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would just count by division.
Exactly. You could just say we count by division. Epistemically, we count by division. Now what? Like, that's why this argument's so bad. I can just say that it's an epistemic truth, bro. Like, come on, man. I don't drive a Volvo. Those are cool, though. I do not own a Santa Fe. I do not drive a Lancia Delta Integral. I do not drive one of those either.
Okay, what does that mean?
It means we count whether.
I'll find some kind of reward for somebody who actually figures out what I drive. Dave, you can't say.
You count things that are divisible?
Yeah, whether they're divisible.
Oh, we are definitely going to destroy them, Lewis. Absolutely. Hey, by the way, just for everybody who's in here, before I continue this, Lewis is in the house. In case you guys didn't already know about this, I've already actually posted it multiple times. But me and Lewis are actually going to be 2v2ing against Halal Christian and Gumbo on whether or not Jesus is the Most High God. That's going to be amazingly fun. And maybe we'll finally convert those goobers. You know what I'm saying?
So if they can possibly be,
I don't drive a Honda Civic. I used to drive a Honda Civic.
Count as more than one?
If they can be divided, yeah, you can potentially count them as more than one, yeah.
No, but is mere potential for them to be divided, is that sufficient for them to be counted as?
The mere potential for them to be divided. What? Was that a sentence that I just heard out loud? Am I tripping?
More than one.
Yeah, I wouldn't see any issue with that.
Okay, and is that for
Range Rover? Do you think I'm a millionaire? What the hell?
anything, or that's only for God?
Yeah, that's gonna be in relation to God because other
I
people
can.
are gonna have things.
All right, sorry. I keep having to pause this because I'm getting roasted. First off, I can drive a manual. A car that I had back when I was in the military was specifically a 1996 Acura Integra GSR. I drove that thing everywhere.
Things like be universals and particulars in our view, not nominalists. So
Yeah.
Vile Vendetta, thank you for the 5 gifted memberships, man. Appreciate
God
that.
himself, is that true all across the board?
for God, yeah,
Okay, but it's not for created things.
right.
And why is that?
Because created things are universals and particulars.
That's interesting. I've never heard somebody say we don't count it that method because of the fact that created things can be categorized as universals and particulars. I haven't heard that. That's not a bad argument though. I usually would answer that question by saying that we count. What is happening right now? Oh, there's just other ones coming up. Sorry, I was really confused. Is my thing broken? Hold on. I think my thing is broken. Give me a second. Oh, no, we're good. Okay, sorry. I do not drive a Honda Civic, though. No, so you'd say that it's based off of action, right? So if God, because in the way that God works is he works in one singular token energy, works in one singular action in 3 hypostases. Human beings work in their own individual tokens per hypostasis, right? So you count them based off of whether or not they can act apart from another. God in 3 hypostases does not act apart from either 3. So then therefore, that's how you would count them. Yes, exactly. Orthodox cross. St. Gregory of Nyssa on Not 3 Gods. Go read it. St. Gregory of Nyssa defeated the LPT long, long ago.
And that's not the case for the Trinity.
No.
Okay, so
Also, they don't know how to address that when you bring that up.
yourself, you said that's going to be true. By what relation do you count persons in the Trinity?
Are you just asking in which way? You're just asking by division again?
By what relation do you count persons?
By
Yeah,
what
you're just asking how to
relation?
count them. Again, it's still by division.
It's by division. So how many persons are there in the Trinity?
3 persons.
Well, if it's by division, then there would be only one person.
How would there only be 1 person?
Because you said counting by division means
So you'd say here that you count by identity in regards to the intertrinitarian life, right? All of the fathers universally agreed that metaphysics is different when it's pertaining to God in totality versus God in the intertrinitarian life or within himself. There's different ways to count. The same reason why that you could say that there's one, like even in their view, right? They do the same thing. They count by division when it comes to Allah and his attributes, right? When it comes to saying, because like they would, I mean, it kind of depends on their akida, of course. I mean, if they don't think the attributes are Allah, they don't believe in divine simplicity, then of course, like they'd be counting just by saying, oh, they're not God. But like some of the akidas that would say that the attributes are Allah, they would still be counting one Allah and then saying, but there's 99 attributes that are identical to Allah. Right? You count differently based off of you're talking about something within God versus talking about God in totality. I do not drive a Mitsubishi, no.
category that's we're talking about. In the category
we're
of
counting
God.
them as we're counting them as one God, but not that they're
Yeah.
one person.
In the category of God, you're counting them as one God because they cannot be divided or separated, correct?
Yeah, we're counting them as one God because there's no division, no separation within that. A distinction is going to be different. Distinction doesn't entail separation.
I never said it did I?
Great. So
Vile Vendetta, the reason why I said token and type when it comes to energies, this is actually Dr. Bo Branson's dissertation on the logical problem of the Trinity. That's the language that's used there. It's an analytical term.
I'm pointing out the fact that persons are distinct, but they're not separated or divided still.
Right. So the persons, which each one of them are God, they count as one God because they cannot be possibly separated by time or space, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, in like manner, because you said that's true for God across the board, in like manner, That would mean that the persons, the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, because they cannot be separated by time or space and are not divisible by time or space, they should count as one person, not three persons.
Well, they would count as one God, one ontology, but they're going to be distinct in their personhood specifically via the relation.
Yakovos, I've never known how to say your name, man, but God bless. When you're saying energy, normally that would be denoted as token. A type would normally be denoted as dunamis or power.
Okay, so by what relation are you counting persons? You can't be counting them by division.
We're talking about by the relation of begetting, inspiration.
So you're not counting them by division or separability.
Yes, you can still count them by division and still entail distinctions. You just can't entail division or separation.
And if they're not divided or separated, then that, or cannot possibly be divided or separated, that means they would count as one instead of three.
It would count as one if there's also no distinctions there. But there can be a distinction that's not a separation.
I don't drive a Cybertruck,
Right.
bro.
And so in the same way in which
No Chryslers.
the category of God, there is a distinction but no separation, they would count as three gods.
Well, if there's multiple gods, yeah, if there's a distinction in godhood, then yeah, but there's no distinction in godhood.
You also could say it like from the perspective of St. Augustine, right? If there's multiple essences, you could also count things by multiple essences and then pertaining to how that essence is instantiated as a person. That's the way that St. Augustine does that in De Trinitate, I'm pretty sure. So you also could say that you count by essence, right, in terms of God, and then you would count by hypostasis in regards to persons. That's the way that St. Augustine goes about that exact same issue. I do not drive any Nissan.
No, because before you just said that they're not separated by time or space. That's what it means to count by division.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm saying if that is sufficient,
I don't drive a Mustang.
as one thing,
I don't drive a
instead
Lambo.
of multiple or more than one, then in like manner, if you applied it consistently across the board, they would have to count as one person instead of three.
Yeah, that would be if and only if there's not a distinction in personhood itself. Again, if there was a distinction in godhood, it would make there multiple gods, but the distinction in personhood makes it okay to
No
say there's
Tesla
multiple
or a
persons
Subaru.
with counting by division.
No Fords.
Because counting by division means, as you said earlier, that they can only be counted as more than one.
No Mazdas.
Category under
No Toyotas.
if they are possibly divided or separated. But the persons are not possibly divided or separated.
Yeah, you can only count them as more than one in that ontology that you're speaking about if it's
No,
going to be a separation or division. But you can still count the distinction itself as personhood.
Say the last part again.
You can still count the distinction in personhood as long as it's just a distinction.
No Ducati, no Mitsubishi, no Lincoln, no Chevy, no Nissan, no Pontiac, no Volkswagen.
If it's not a separation or division, then they can't count as more than one.
They can count as more than one, even if there's a distinction. At least there just has to be a distinction in the personhood. If there's a distinction in something underlying, like
No
a subcategory,
BMW,
then
no Dodge, no
If
Chrysler.
there's a distinction in the primary category, and there can be.
What do you mean by that?
No Hyundai.
Between primary
You're getting closer, though. You're very close.
Subcategory, right? And let's say for essence,
Korean.
if there's a subcategory of distinction, like between the attributes, for example,
No Kia.
well, then that's not going to make for multiple gods. There would have to be a distinction in godhood or in ontology. So in the primary category of personhood, as long as there's a distinction in the primary category itself, like relation, then it's going to be a distinction.
Genesis G80 is correct. Yos got it. I have a 2025 Genesis G80. That is what I drive. He got it. Good job, Yos.
If there's a category in the if there's a distinction in the subcategory, like maybe something like the attributes of the personhood, then it's not going to account for distinction there.
Okay, I don't know if you're really understanding the point that I'm trying to raise or the objection I'm raising. I'm saying to you that if not being divided by time or space is sufficient, it's not just necessary, but is sufficient for counting things as one rather than multiple, then by that same line of counting and by that same method of counting, if the persons cannot possibly be separated by time or space, then they would count as one person. Because
if and only if there's not a distinction in the primary category.
No, but then that means you're counting them by identity.
No, it just means that we're counting them in the primary category distinction itself.
Yeah, and distinction or counting them by distinction is counting by identity. That's what it means.
You have to prove that counting by distinction can only be counted by identity.
Oh my God, bro. What do you think it means to
Nick's making a valid point here. I mean, he's literally saying how do you actually get to the point where if you count something as 3 in terms of it being distinct in the thing itself, why does that necessitate that then therefore there's 3 things? Right? If you're talking about in the thing itself, there's distinction in the thing itself regarding the persons. That doesn't necessitate that there's then 3 things.
count by identity?
3.5T. Yos.
Yeah, counting by identity, just counting multiple things. For example, if you have, let's see, if you have like a bagel on the table, right? Like a good example that David Leisman gives. If you have a bagel on the table and you cut the bagel in half, according to identity, that would be 2 bagels now.
Oh man. So when I'm talking about identity, I'm talking about Leibniz's law.
Orthodox Cross said, Bryce, how is material identity formalized? Like M as a set or X equals Y? It'd be more like a set. Okay, it's more. It would be more as denoted as a set, rather, if you're talking about it as a formalization. All right. I don't think that Jake is tracking at all. Like, so here's the problem: is that he's basically not critiquing this from the perspective of like classical theism in like any sense when he's making these critiques. Like, he doesn't understand any scholastic notions whatsoever. It's pretty ridiculous.
That's what I'm talking about in this context. I'm talking about counting by discernibility. If you count things as more than one, so long as they're not identical to each other, i.e., they're discernible from one another.
So what kind of identity there?
Meaning that not everything that's true of one is true of the other, or they don't share all of the same properties.
So absolute identity, right?
Yeah.
So why can you only count that then by identity, and then if there's a distinction, you can't count that by division? What's the symmetry breaker?
That was good. That's a good question to ask, because Jake is presupposing that basically you cannot count things by division at all, which is stupid because that's the way that the ancient philosophers counted. A lot of them try to say that that's not what they did, but it is what they did. Because if you look at, let's use Aristotle, right? This example is obviously imperfect because we don't hold things exactly in the way that he does, of course. But Aristotle used very similar categories. When he said that there were basically categories of what makes something what it is, you don't count the being by the amount of properties it possesses. It's not hard. You count things by basically the whole or the totality, which, like I said, it's not a perfect example because obviously God is not a whole to a parts, or is not parts to a whole, of course. So like the Trinity, right, is not a whole. But it's a similar notion. It just shows that they did count by division. It's the same thing.
No, I don't.
That's my question. What's the symmetry breaker?
I don't think you're understanding the point because you just.
Plato's even worse about it because Plato believed that there was some form of like ontology apart from the thing itself for the properties, right? The forms, right? Well, forms would be denoting like universals in a sense. Obviously, he had an issue with universals, but it's the same thing. They'd be counting things off of basically the way that something is individuated with everything that denotes it, which is counting by division.
I said before that you don't see a difference, or you're saying that there is a difference between counting by discernibility or identity.
Also, they do the same thing, hilariously enough. The Muslims, right? If you ask them if what we are made up of, this is a composition thing again, of course, but it's still a similar notion. You don't count persons by basically their properties that they have, as well as, like, for example, we're made up of soul and body, which they would usually concede that we're not, that we are made up of soul and body. You don't say that there's then 2 persons in the regards to the fact that there is a soul and there is a body. There's not 2 individual persons. It's like Christology. It's like Christology literally answers everything.
No, they're the same thing in this case.
Yeah, I'm just asking you what's a symmetry breaker because you said you can't then count by
Symmetry breaker for
division.
what?
You said that you would have to count by identity. If there's a distinction, you can't count by division then. So I said I want you
Okay, no,
to show me the
I
symmetry
didn't say
breaker.
that.
So you
No, I
admit
didn't
we
say
can't count by division if there's a distinction.
No, that's not what I said.
So can we count by division if there's a distinction?
If you count by division, then that would entail that there's only one person in the Trinity.
That's implying that there can't be three persons that are inseparable. That's stupid. That is so dumb.
How does that entail that if there's a primary distinction?
Okay, so let's go back to the beginning when you defined what counting by division is. You want to define it again?
Yakovos says, by the way, Bryce, I start my EO catechism next year, and your content was a contribution, bro. I appreciate it, man. Glory to God, and many years to you for becoming a catechumen in the one holy Catholic and Apostolic Church. Amen.
I want you to tell me why, if there's a primary distinction, that it would not entail there's multiple persons, even with counting by division.
Because counting by division means that if they are not possibly separated by time or space, then that is sufficient in itself to count them as one rather than more than one.
Yeah, that is able to count them as one in one way. So we do count them as one in one way in their ontology, but it does not mean you cannot count them as more than one in another way. It does, for example, if you count a bagel by division, again, as David Leisman writes in his paper, that does not mean then that you cannot attribute different distinctions and count more than one in any way in the bagel. I can say there's one bagel, right? And this
Is this the... Okay, so this is context, because I haven't understood this context for days. I know that there was a couple people joking about how Nick, I guess, compared God to a bagel. I'm not seeing that he actually did that. He's simply just giving an example of something in the created order where we would use the same method of counting. That is funny, though, that people have been, like, Muslims have been going around saying that Nick thinks his God is a bagel or something like that.
not an analogy for Trinity, just so y'all know. This is talking about counting by division. But then you have multiple raisins. You can still count multiple raisins in the bagel, for instance. So this is just showing that even counting by division, you can still count distinctions within things.
Yeah, but when you count by distinction within things, then you're counting by a different relation. You're counting by discernibility in that case.
Yeah, I still think, though, that
Counting by discernibility. That's interesting. Did he slip up with that word? What the hell did that even mean? Counting by discernibility. But am I tripping or like? Yeah, exactly, Jordan. You literally just made that shit up.
just fine in line with counting by division, that you can still count distinctions within division. If you're saying we can't
but you're
then
just
count
counting two
distinctions by
different ways.
division, if you're saying we can't then count by distinction within division,
I've seen the debate with
then
Dr. Khalil, yeah.
Symmetry breaker as to why we can't.
No, I don't think you're understanding the point. I didn't say that there's a contradiction in the two methods of counting. I said that they're just two different ways of counting. That's the point.
Jake is actually a certified word sayer. That's something that I say about people all the time. He is literally a word sayer. He just says shit.
Yeah,
When
yeah,
you count,
yeah. So
you're
my point is,
counting by
can we count these
discernibility,
things by division?
when you're counting by discernibility or identity, that's one thing. When you count by division, that's another thing. They're not the same counting method.
Yeah, the point is, though, is I'm saying you can still count multiple indivisible things by division and still get to multiple persons. That's the point. There's no issue with
Okay,
that.
repeat that one more time. Go ahead.
You can still count multiple indivisible
Jake is
things
not
by
tracking.
division, get distinctions, and count multiple persons, as long as it's not divisible within reality or separated within reality.
Okay, so then it's not true that counting by division means that if two things are indivisible and inseparable from one another, then they necessarily are going to count as one in every sense.
Not in every sense, no. It doesn't mean they're going to count as one in every sense. No, where'd you get that from?
Because if they're indivisible and inseparable from one another in every sense, then that would mean that they would count as one in every sense.
Yo, did you see that comment, by the way? Like, I'm not going to push it back because then I'm going to lose my place. Literally, one of the comments was a Muslim that was glazing Jake. He literally just said, these TikTok people can't understand Jake's argument. I guarantee you that whoever that is, this is why I always mention this stuff to people. I guarantee you he has no idea what Jake is talking about. This is why when people will like mess with me, like they'll try to rage bait me, and they'll say something like, dude, how does it feel to get cooked by insert person here? How does it feel that you got wrecked by this person here the other night? I always simply just ask them, can you name a single argument that he made that he got me on? Name any argument that he got. Name any argument that he made where I didn't have an answer. And they legitimately have no idea. They can't actually address it because they don't actually know what's going on in the debate. They're just presupposing that their guy was smarter because they're part of that, whatever that religion is.
I don't think that them being indivisible doesn't mean there's no distinctions entailed. There can be distinctions that aren't divisible distinctions.
Oh man, I know that there can be a distinction without separation or division. I believe that too. That's not the point. That means that when you're counting them in that case,
Did he just agree? Hold on.
There can be a distinction without separation or
He agrees that there can be distinction without separation.
division.
He agrees with that. What? That's a concession, bro. That's a literal concession.
Counting them in that case as more than one thing, even though they cannot possibly be separated or divided, but they are distinct, meaning that they're not identical, then in that case, when you count them as more than one, you are counting by.
But if something can be distinct and not separate, which he conceded, by the way, that things can be distinct and not separate, then they would be considered one identity. What a blunder, bro. Insane blunder. That's the debate's over. Like if he admits that.
By identity, not by division.
Yeah, again, my whole point is that when we're talking about counting by division itself, we can still conclude that there are distinctions that we can count within that division itself, and the two things itself won't be divisible, like attributes, for instance, or like let's say, for instance, the persons.
Attributes or divine persons.
What?
The attributes or divine persons.
Yeah, so we can say that the person.
I thought he said the attributes are persons, and I was just like, wow, Ibn Taymiyyah blunder.
And their attributes, the relations to one another, is what distinguishes them. That's going to be a primary distinction that we can still count within counting by division.
But when you count them as more than one person and you count them as more than one attribute, by what relation are you counting them as more than one?
Yet we're still counting them within counting by division.
Why is that funny? That was a rhetorical laugh. That literally was not even a laugh because Nick made a bad argument. That was a rhetorical laugh, bro. You could tell. Shut the hell up.
How are you counting?
Because of the primary distinction.
Because of the primary distinction. What does that mean?
Bro, I already explained to you what primary distinction is, dude. Primary distinction is going to be within the subject itself, within the subject at hand.
Yeah.
So not going to be in a subcategory of that. So not going to be like within an attribute, but going to be within the actual thing itself.
Where is the attribute if it's not in the thing itself?
No, I'm saying the attribute, there's primary and secondary ones. So for example, if we're talking about the essence or we're talking about some sort of essential property, that's going to be primary. If we're talking about something external to the thing, that's going to be secondary.
Okay, so he's basically talking about counting by things that would be ad intra to God versus things that are ad extra God for the scholastic nerds in the chat. That's pretty much what he said here. There's a difference in the method by which we count things that are ad extra to God versus things that are ad intra within himself.
Yeah, but in the case of the persons, we're not talking about something external. We're talking about something within them.
Which is why it's primary.
Exactly.
So the primary distinction is what distinguishes them as multiple persons.
Right, and that distinction, because you're counting them as...
Bean, I didn't realize. I'm so sorry. Thank you for the galaxy, by the way. I didn't even see it pop up on my screen. I apologize. I have a lot of stuff going on my screen.
As distinction, you are counting them by identity, by the fact that they are distinct from one another.
You're don't think counting distinct things is...
Does he believe... Well, hold on. Because with his logic, because now I'm trying to put things together... He said that things can be distinct without separation, but he's also saying that you still have to count them by identity. So there can be multiple things that you count by identity that are distinct and not separate? Things can have an absolute identity with another from another thing, but be inseparable from that thing entirely. Am I tripping? Because like it sounds to me like he's saying that multiple reses or things in totality can be distinct and not separate, right? In fullness.
Necessarily counting by identity. You have to prove. You have to justify that.
Yes. Okay. So let me read for you from Bo Branson, who explicitly explains this.
Here we go.
Okay. 1 second here. All right. So Branson says, and this is a quote, "Today we count Fs by one, logical subjects that are two, discernible, keyword, discernible from,
Oh my gosh.
or at least not identical to." That's what it means.
Does he not realize that Dr. Bo Branson is an analytical person, not a scholastic person? So when he says that we count things in their discernibility, that does not mean the same thing as if you're talking about it from the perspective of scholastic notions. They literally mean different things. And he's trying to collapse it into the way that Nick's talking about discernibility, which is dumb.
Discernible and not identical to is the same in this context with one another and are both F. That is, if X and Y differ in any way and are both F-ish, we count them as two Fs. So in this context, when we say counting by identity or counting by discernibility, they're synonymous with each other. It means the same thing. Branson
Where did he say that?
When we say counting by identity or counting by discernibility, they're synonymous with each other.
No, they're not. They're literally not. That's another blunder. That literally does. It's not. Those aren't synonymous, because there's two different epistemologies that are derived from that. There's an analytical perspective of discernibility, which would be like in like the sense of like Leibniz, versus the way that a discernibility would be denoted in God scholastically.
It means the same thing.
Where did he say though that is the only way to count distinctions? You said that that's the only way to count distinctions. I want to know where you got that from.
What do you mean that's the only way to count distinctions?
If you count multiple distinct things, the only way to do that is by identity. I'm saying, where are you getting that from?
No, I'm saying it's assumed by the fact that they're not identical. That's the relation you're counting to that.
So is that the only way to count distinct things by identity?
Wow. So if two things are not identical, then they're counted by identity. Dude, freaking truth nuke. What?
No, you can count distinct things by other relations so long as you provide a criteria for that. But your criteria for counting by division is not fulfilled in the case of persons or attributes, because they can only be counted as multiple persons or multiple attributes if and only if they are possibly separated or divided from one another, which they're not. Therefore,
What? Bro, he's just saying shit, man. Let's listen to that one more time.
As multiple persons or multiple attributes, if and only if they are possibly separated or divided from one another.
So you can only count things if they're separable. Agreed. When you're talking about beings, that's literally true. He just conceded again.
Which they're not. Therefore, that's not fulfilled, so you cannot count them as more than one person or attribute in the case of counting by division.
No, we wouldn't be able to count them as multiple ontologies, because when we say that they're not separated or not divisible, then we're talking about ontology there. But when we then...
Nick, what are you doing, bro? Jake's not even going to know what ontology is. This is going to be bad.
Speak about the fact that they are distinct within relation is going to be talking about the fact that they're distinct in personhood. So we can entail a distinction in personhood, but what we can't do in counting by division here is talking about a distinction within ontology.
Are the persons distinct in ontology?
No, what? That's my point.
So the persons are not ontologically distinct.
No.
Okay, in what way are they distinct?
Relationally?
Okay, and is the relation ontological?
No, it's not an ontological relation. If you
What
mean
is
that,
it?
if you mean it's a difference in ontology.
So there's a difference between saying that the relation is real versus the relation being ontological. They're not ontological, right? So Nick's completely correct with that. The relations are real, but that doesn't mean that they then possess their own ontology just because there is a real relation in God.
It's a personal relation.
Is it constitutive of the persons?
A constitutive. Constitutive. It's a constitutive, bro.
What do you mean by that?
Are relations things that exist in between entities, or are they something that are possessed
It's constitutive, by the way.
by the entity?
Do you mean by in between? Do you mean that separating them ontologically? I don't know what you mean by in between entities.
Okay, do you know what a relation is?
Yes. I know
What
what
is a relation? What is a relation in your view?
Yes, a relation is going to be some sort of connection between two or more things.
Okay, do the persons possess those relational properties?
Yes.
Are they ontological?
They're not a
What does that even mean? Is he asking if the properties are ontological? Like what? What is he asking?
different ontology. You can say that they are identical to the ontology of the essence.
No,
They're not a different ontology.
Are relational properties ontological? Are they real?
Yeah, they're of the ontology, yeah.
Of the ontology. Material identity. Materially identical. The persons are materially identical. That's ontology. Ridiculous, bro.
Okay, so then that goes back to the point when you just
So
said
it's
that
still one ontology.
they're not ontologically different. They are, because the persons
No.
each
Oh my
possess the persons each possess
I just said they're the
type of-
same ontology, dude.
okay. So what personal property does the Father have that the Son doesn't have, and vice versa?
The fact that he begets the Son.
Okay, and what does the Son possess that the Father doesn't?
The fact that
Another
being
pouch.
begotten.
This is killing me.
Okay, and are those real properties that each one possesses that the other doesn't?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, so is a property ontological?
It can
Is a
subsist in
property
ontology. It
ontological?
itself is not.
Okay, so to put this like into like I guess like classical notions, he's basically asking if the attributes possess their own materiality or their own material identity. That's so dumb to even be asked that question. Like, dude, oh my gosh.
Not ontological.
A property is not ontological.
Properties aren't just necessarily ontological. Wait,
What
do you
are
think?
they?
Wait, you think properties are all ontological?
What are they?
So do you think that Allah has?
What are they? Oh my gosh. What do you mean? What are they then? Oh, dude, I thought this dude was like high tier, bro.
Has 99 different ontologies?
I think that he has well, we don't say 99, those are referring to the names, but I believe that.
Yo, do you see that office moment? You see the office moment that he just did? He literally just pulled a Dwight Schrute from The Office. He literally was like, and then continued his conversation, bro. He broke the fourth wall.
God's attributes are real, they're ontological.
He did a Deadpool, bro.
God have a bunch of different ontologies?
God has multiple real distinct attributes.
That is a gym moment.
Are
Yeah.
they different ontologies?
They're not the same.
So
Yeah.
God has more than one ontology?
God has multiple distinct real attributes. Don't
Is he conceding? Why is he conceding that? Oh my gosh. Holy moly.
Don't you believe that?
Wait, I'm asking you, I want to be clear. Do you think God has multiple ontologies?
When you say ontologies, what do you mean by that?
The same way you've been. So now suddenly you don't know what
I just
ontology
explained it to
means?
you. No, because I
Exactly.
The
explained it to
same
you.
way you've been using it this
I
whole time.
explained
Suddenly
it-
you don't know what
I
it means?
explained it. No, I explained it to you 3 times, but now you're asking me the same question. I believe ontological means it has a reality.
It has a
It has
reality.
an actual reality.
So he thinks ontology just refers to anything prior to the intellect, bro. He thinks ontology denotes anything that is prior to the human intellect. Wow. Holy dude. This is so bad. I'm gonna go ahead and do a small reductio from this. Just from that statement. Watch this. There are multiple concepts that Allah knows. All of these concepts are the things, right, that he then creates. These concepts of God are prior to the human intellect. Therefore, prior to the human intellect, creation already has ontology prior to God creating it. Are we for real? Are we for real, chat? What's going on, bro? We got the pre-created ontology of creation, and then we got the post-creation ontology, bro. Good dude.
It's not something conceptual that's merely in the mind.
Great. Does God
Okay,
have
so yeah,
multiple ontologies?
God has multiple real attributes.
Say ontological, Jake. Say ontological because you know that's what you mean by that. You're saying, oh no.
That are not distinct merely in mind alone. They are ontologically distinct.
So I
They
just want to be
are
clear.
really distinct from each
So
other.
I just want to be clear. God has, I just want to make sure I'm not strawman you. God has multiple ontologies, right? According to you.
In that case, all ontology means that God has multiple real distinct attributes. Yes, he does.
And what are they?
And
What's
you
the
believe
type of?
the
What's the
same thing,
distinction
don't
between
you?
them? Wait, what's the distinction between them?
They're not identical.
Okay, wait. Okay, so he asked, what is the distinction? And then he then said, they're not identical. That is the definition of distinct, by the way. No shit. To quote from the new game that came out called Dispatch, right? What are you? Mr. Say Obvious Shit guy? Thank you. Appreciate that.
What type of distinction?
Thank you for tautologying me.
They're discernible from one another.
Great,
They are really
great. That doesn't tell me the
distinct.
type of distinction.
Yes, it does. It tells you they're really distinct, meaning they're not identical, but they're indivisible and inseparable from each other.
Great, but what kind of distinction though? There's multiple kinds. Are you familiar with the different kinds of
I
distinction?
just told, are you listening? I just told you it's a real distinction.
How are you using real? Are you using the scholastic term of real, or are you using more of an Eastern real?
I don't know what that meant. I don't know what he meant by Eastern real. I'm not going to lie. I don't know what that means. Yo, Nick, you got to DM me, bro. I don't know what that means. I don't know what the Eastern real is.
My God. Now we're moving on to discussing Allah's attributes, which I, by the way, have no problem with doing whatsoever.
Great.
But
So-
this is moving away. Hold on a second. This is moving away from the discussion at hand.
It's called a
which is
consistency
you
argument.
claimed- no, yeah, and I am consistent. I count.
Okay,
I
so-
count the attributes.
so-
He's not consistent. He has to say then that God has multiple ontologies.
I want to know.
The attributes. Hold on a second. I count the attributes. I count the attributes. I count everything within God. I count by identity. You don't do that.
He might have meant Eastern theological understanding of real. I mean, yeah, I guess if you're denoting it like the way that Eastern or the way that essence energy's distinction works, where you say that the distinction would be like a formal actual distinction, and say that that's a real distinction, as in a real secundum quid or real in a sense, right? That would be more of like the Eastern real. So if that's what he meant by that, then yeah. So he's saying, do you mean scholastic real as in like major real, or are you saying formal actual? I think that's kind of what he was denoting here.
You're counting gods by division or separability, and then when it comes to persons or attributes, you're counting them by identity or discernibility.
Great. I just want to know though.
No, Badakishi, that's not even nominalism, bro. That's the complete opposite of nominalism, because he believes that every single form of concept, universal or particular, possesses ontology prior to it even existing. So it's actually a hyper anti-nominalism in a way.
You haven't answered. I just want to know when you say real, I want to know, are you using the scholastic term or are you using the Eastern term of real?
Am I using the scholastic term of real?
Yes. Are you using scholastic real distinction or Eastern real distinction?
What's the relevant difference?
You don't know the difference between a scholastic distinction and
I thought this dude was the LPT king, bro, and he doesn't actually understand at all what Nick is saying. It's insane. He's basically saying, is it major real or is it formal actual? Like, brother.
in the Eastern? You know what a scholastic real distinction is?
Dude, I have it right in front of me. I can literally read it for you.
Do you know what a scholastic real distinction is?
Then read it.
Right? Yes, I do. And I can literally read it from you, literally right out of the...
Oh, he's so lost now, dude. Do you hear the voice? Do you hear his voice? He knows the blunder that he's made. He knows the blunder he's made now. He's tripping on his words so badly now because he knows that he made a massive mistake and he can't get out of it now.
Dictionary of scholastic philosophy, which I have right in front of me.
Great. So are you using a scholastic real distinction, or it should be easy then?
You are totally moving away.
I'm glad you looked up the dictionary. I'm asking you a question, okay? Are you using the scholastic or the Eastern?
It's obvious that you're moving away from the discussion.
I literally let you talk about it for 20 minutes, and I ask you one question, and suddenly you don't like it.
No.
Let's talk about it.
You've been.
It's just an open conversation, dude. It's an open conversation, dude.
Yeah, exactly.
So I want you to answer the question.
Which I showed up here, by the way, because you guys were cowering on and on all day, going back and forth.
Cowering? I emailed you 10 minutes after you emailed me, and you haven't emailed me back yet. What are you talking about, dude?
Uh-oh.
Dude, you guys were literally on a live stream today.
And I told you, and I told Speaking to tell you to come through, and you didn't.
Yeah, because I was busy.
Okay.
Hey, Dave, if you're watching, please knock these goobers out of the YouTube chat.
So who's cowering? If I'm in the live, in front of 500 people saying, get Jake, and he don't come, how am I the one cowering?
You're not getting the point. You guys were going on and on.
Not getting the point? Brother, you don't even know the difference between scholastic real and Eastern understanding of that in the scholastic. Like, holy moly.
I'm talking about it. That's the point. I can't
because you wouldn't come or you wouldn't email me back. So I had to talk to your minions because you wouldn't email me back.
I had to talk to your minions.
No, because we were going through a third party who was supposed to be hosting.
This guy's a metaphysician, by the way.
Which I have no control over.
You could have just emailed me back, dude.
Anyway, back to the point.
Anyways, I want you to answer the question.
You haven't answered the question.
I've been answering your questions for 20 minutes now, dude. I just wanted you to answer if it was scholastic or Eastern.
You've literally been running in circles for the past 30 minutes.
I've been answering all your questions,
dude.
Dude.
Understand the point.
This is an open discussion. I don't know when it comes to Islam, y'all just don't want to talk about it for some reason. So what kind of distinction is it?
Hold on a second. The question is, Christianity and the Trinity are logical.
Oh my God.
Prove me wrong.
Yes, so and it's an open discussion, and we talked about it for 20 minutes.
If you want to have a discussion on Islam, then you can come on my panel and talk to me about it.
We're talking about both right now.
That's not even true, by the way. That's actually not true, because every time that Jake is on a panel, his topic is always prove that the Trinity is logical. His topic is not freaking prove that Tawhid is illogical. He doesn't ever do that. That's a lie. He's a lying dog for saying that. He doesn't actually defend Tawhid. Unless he's in a formal debate, he never has to do it. He does not do open debates where he defends his own position. Notice how, by the way, that most Christians, when they host panels, they will literally say, prove that the Trinity is illogical. People like Nick, people like God Logic, right? People like freaking Slim. Slim does it all the time. Freaking Basil does it. Like I can name pretty much most of the freaking Christian people on this freaking app are usually always saying prove that the Trinity is illogical. They're not usually trying to say prove that Tawheed is logical, right? We don't even do that.
Oh, let's critique each other's views. We're talking about both.
You haven't even gotten past the fundamental step.
We literally already talked about it. So
you just went through telling me that properties are not ontological.
Oh my God. So we're talking about that. So that's what great. So we're talking about that.
And in the case of the Trinity, the personal properties or the hypostatic properties that they possess, they are ontological.
Okay, great. We're talking about that. So
there's not a different materia that exists of the properties. Oh my gosh. The persons are identical to their properties in that way, in terms of material identity. That's so dumb, bro.
I asked you, then when you said that they're really distinct, are you using the scholastic or the Eastern term?
If the personal properties or the hypostatic properties are ontological, therefore that is what is accounting for them being distinct or counting as more than one person.
Great.
You're not counting them by division.
Great. And you say that they're ontologically really distinct. Are you? I want to understand what you're saying. You said they're really distinct. I want you to understand what you're saying. Are you saying they're scholastic? Are you using the scholastic term or the Eastern term?
What are really distinct?
The attributes.
In your understanding?
No, in yours. Are you using the scholastic term of real or are you using the Eastern term?
I'm using the term of real in the sense that they are not identical but cannot be separated.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. He asked what distinct. Oh, why am I doing this? Is a scholastic real or is it an Eastern understanding of real? And then he said they're not identical. No shit. That's what a distinction is.
Great. So great. That all that tells me is that they're distinct in some way. I'm asking, are you using the because you already said you know it, so it should be easy. Are you talking about the scholastic or the Eastern side of real?
No, I didn't say that.
He said it. He said this or that. He said no. Crazy.
At Daedalus_Gecko actual super chatted $20 for the grift.
Thank you very much, Daedalus. Appreciate the grift as always. Thank you very much for that donation, man. $20. Appreciate it.
I said to you.
It's a question. I didn't say you said anything. I asked you a question.
I said to you by real distinction, and I just explained it very clearly to you.
No, we did it. No, we did it. When he asked how is it real, he said it's not identical. That's literally the definition of distinction, bro. Come on.
I mean that they are not identical. They are discernible from one another.
Not identical in what way, Jake? In what way are they not identical?
However, they are not separated.
Great. All that means is there's a distinction. All that means is a distinction. But there's like 10 different types of distinctions that could be, which is why I'm asking, are you using the scholastic term of a real distinction or an Eastern?
Which one is relevant? How is that relevant to responding to the LPT?
Bro, it's relevant because it's a consistency argument. So I'm asking you again. You're not
explaining how it's how am I being inconsistent? How am I being inconsistent with counting the person? With counting the persons and the attributes and gods in the Trinity by distinction as more than one. Hold on a second. And in the case of my understanding of God as counting the attributes as more than one. How is that inconsistent?
I'm showing you if you would tell me so I don't straw man you.
Yeah, but he says that Jake literally said, I'm trying to say this calmly without crashing out again. He said that if there's a real distinction between two things, that denotes two ontologies. All Nick is doing is making him stay consistent and saying, okay, so then with that being said, with your view, then you think that God has 99 ontologies. It's such a freaking simple consistency check. I can't believe that Jake can't track this. This is insane, bro. I used to actually think he was decently smart. When I watched him debate Jake, I thought Jay Dyer. I thought that it wasn't really that bad. I thought that Jake was decently smart in a way. But this is just insane, bro. I can't believe the lack of knowledge this dude possesses.
What type of real distinction you're using? Are you using scholastic or Eastern?
Neither.
Neither.
Which
Neither.
kind?
I already
What's the tertium quid, bro?
explained to you what I'm using. I said
Neither.
that the attributes are distinct from one another. They're not identical. They're discernible from one another, but cannot be separated by time.
Yeah, you could see the Nick's face of how insane this conversation has become. You look at his face, bro. Like look at this man's face. Like, hold on. Like, look at this man's face. You see this? Look at his face, bro. He's so done with this conversation. He's so done with this conversation.
Or space.
So then why is it not a formal distinction?
Formal distinction, that's a scotistic,
Hey, if you're
discernible from one another, but cannot be separated by time or space.
So then why is it not a formal distinction?
Formal distinction, that's a scotistic term.
Yeah, why is it not a formal distinction?
I didn't say that it was or it wasn't. I defined for you what it is.
So is it
I
real?
defined for you what it is because unlike you,
the formal distinction, in a sense, is a real distinction. So that was valid to ask, why is it not a formal distinction, like in the scotistic sense? Because that's also a form of real distinction.
I'm not concerned with the wording.
Dude,
I'm concerned
bro,
with the
bro, I don't
content.
even feel like
I'm
you know these.
concerned with
Do you know
I'm
what's the?
concerned with the
Bro,
I'm
can you?
concerned with the content of what you're saying, and I'm also concerned with the consistency of the content of what I'm saying.
Dude, I'm be honest. I don't think you know what you're talking about. What's the difference between a real and a formal distinction?
Oh, yes.
God.
Please answer that question.
Come on, you don't need a nervous laugh. What's the difference?
You think that I don't know the difference
Answer the
between
question.
a real and formal distinction?
Answer the
I
question.
know what the difference is.
Oh, he's avoiding this so badly, bro. Like, answer it. Like, just answer it, bro. If it's just that dumb, if that question was just that dumb, Jake, answer it. What is the difference between a real and a formal distinction, Jake? What is it? I really, really hope that he answers
answer
it.
the question.
I believe that.
Then answer the question instead of trying to hurry up and look it up.
I'm not. I'm answering you if you would shut up for a
Great,
second.
answer the question. Difference
I'm
between real and
answering
formal.
you that I believe that a formal distinction is a type of real distinction.
Good. Fine.
So what's the difference?
The difference, it depends on whose definition you're looking at.
Come on. Let's continue.
What is the difference between a real and
SCOTUS and
formal?
the SCOTUS and the Thomists don't agree about this. That's the whole point.
Okay, what's the difference between the SCOTUS formal? So we'll just pick one. I'll pick a random. What's the difference between a SCOTUS formal distinction and a real distinction?
The SCOTUS formal distinction is basically equivalent to what I just said, that two things are not identical, they're discernible from one another, even if they can't be separated by time or space.
That's just a generic understanding of a real distinction. That's a generic understanding. What is a formal distinction? What does it denote? It denotes formalities, objective definitions that are grounded in the thing itself. You dunce. Oh my gosh.
So there's no distinction between a real and formal distinction in the SCOTUS
So he believes there's a formal distinction in Allah. Crazy.
view?
I didn't say that. You asked me what the formal distinction is, and I just defined it for you.
What is the difference between? It's very. I don't know.
Is it, with his logic, right, he's saying that basically Allah's attributes are just formalities. But he's not going to accept that.
Why you can't answer? What's the difference between a real?
How stupid are you? You're not
You
even
haven't. What's the distinction
answered you
between?
3
What's the
times already.
difference
What you
between a
keep
real
going-
distinction?
You keep going to asking me about what
Because
is
you
the
can't
difference
answer. This is crazy.
I did.
What's the
Hey, Nick,
difference between
how
a real
about you be
distinction
quiet
and
for
a
second and
formal
listen?
distinction?
I just told you what it is.
What is it then?
He only described what he thought a formal distinction was, which was wrong.
I just told you that a formal distinction is what I just described, that a distinction, meaning it's discernible or not identical, but cannot be separated.
That's the same thing you defined a real distinction as. Is it not?
Look at the nervous laughter! Dude! Yeah, the freaking, the fake ass laughter, man. Oh my gosh. Are you serious? Like, yeah, Ibn Taymiyyah would not agree with the way that Jake is purporting that.
Oh boy.
Is that not
So I would just ask him, like, okay, so are Allah's attributes formally distinct then?
the same thing you just
Did
described
you
a real
not
distinction
hear
as?
me? Hey, did you not hear me? Where I said that I believe my personal position is that a formal distinction is a type of real distinction? Did you clock
You
that?
said a type. That means there's a difference, no?
Yeah, there are differences.
So tell me the difference.
There's a real distinction. How I don't.
I can't freaking keep myself together. This freaking I have a headache. I never get like this. I have a headache. Oh my gosh. Ugh. I'm gonna need some naproxen, dude.
This is crazy. Tell me the difference.
I don't understand how dumb you actually are.
Bro,
You
just
really
tell
are.
me the difference.
You really are a complete moron.
All right, bro.
Another type of real distinction
Dude,
is
thanks for coming on, bro. Is that your best? Is that your best hitter, Islam? Bro, is that y'all's best hitter? Oh my God, that's who y'all
Yeah, exactly. He like sounded like he was crying, bro. Like he was about to start crying.
was begging for me to debate? Is that who y'all was begging for me to debate? Is that who y'all were begging for me to debate, saying I was running from? A guy who doesn't know the dang difference between a real and a formal distinction, a guy who said his God has multiple ontologies, that's who y'all begging me to debate. Waste of my time over here saying I'm the A side. I'm the A side. Yo, I don't need to email him back. I'll get my little minions. I'm the A side. You can come to my live. Who are you? You don't know nothing, dude. Studying Islam for 15 years for what? Get out of here, bruh.
Studied Islam for 15 years. You obviously ain't studied nothing about freaking Christianity before you decided to convert away from Catholicism. Man used to be Catholic. His poor mother, bro. His poor mother. Gosh, his poor mother.
For 15 years for what, dude? I don't know what the frick you talking about, bro. How about you humble yourself, dude? Jin need to humble himself.
Oh my gosh, bro. That was insane, bro. There's no way. Are we serious, man? Dude, my mind is blown by how bad that was for him. Anything else you guys want me to watch so that I can die on camera? Because I can tell now that you guys are trying to kill me, giving me something like that. That was ridiculous. I can't believe that's one of their biggest guys, bro. That's insane.